the film. And it was such a beautiful thing because at the screening, Markelle, and we'll hear from him in a minute, was telling a little bit more about his story and said that he needed a few things because one of the things that he does is give back. And Jennifer Edwards stood up, Jennifer is the director of the Falmouth Road Race, and said, we can help you. And so did, and the Run House, which sponsored the film, and Charles River Apparel said, we can help you. And to me, that is the beauty of the film festival, when film comes off the screen and happens in real life. So I just want to thank the Falmouth Road Race for supporting the screening. We really appreciate the fact that at their busiest time of year, they saw in Markelle what everybody else sees in him, invited him back here, and he's going to run the race on Sunday. So it's a beautiful thing. A little Q&A, Markelle, come on up.
How you guys doing?
Doing okay.
Thank you for inviting me back here. I like it out here. It's beautiful.
I need to scale a little bit. Project. That's gonna be best.
Oh, can y'all hear me?
Yeah. Yes.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you all for allowing me to be here. Y'all like the film?
Yeah.
A lot of them guys are out. Some of them are still in. We're doing everything we can to show that we're given a second chance, it works, and we won't be back in there. So I'm living proof of that. So I'm an ambassador for those guys. Every time the film is shown or when I go to speaking arrangements, talk about prison reform and how we can better improve the prison system, how people can go in with a different attitude and come out with a better, healthier, safer attitude with themselves, and that way they can be better, productive people in society. So that's what I do. I'm also a running coach in the Tenderloin community in San Francisco, and I also go back in to San Quentin as a coach. So I'll give it back in that way too. So whatever I can do for those guys, and to help out.
Before we open it up for questions, so I spoke to Christine Yu, the filmmaker, and she said, with a film like this, obviously it's quite powerful, brings up a lot of issues, especially prison reform, and what happens to people when they get out of prison. And Markelle might talk about that a little bit too, but she really is going to use the film to bring about as much reform as possible. And they're going to be meeting, I think, with the governor's people in California. One of the things they're trying to do is to get Tommy out of prison.
Yes, they're working hard on that.
So, question, yeah.
What's your number when you're running this month?
What's your number is the question.
I didn't do the traditional thing yet. I'm waiting to get my number so I can take some pictures so I can post it up and say I ran here. It's like, I'm still waiting to get that. So.
I think Jennifer said it's like 301 or something like that, 300 something.
301.
I guarantee we'll all be looking it up.
Yeah.
So we'll be rooting for you.
All right, thanks.
How many of you are running? All right. Any other questions? Yes.
Your relationship on screen with your coach seems like that was also an important factor of after you were released to have that support in the community. Do you think that played a large part in how well you're doing now, or are you still close with him or not?
I call him Pops. We're really close. I ate at his house. We did another, right before Boston, the Department of Corrections asked me to do a video for rehabilitation and transformation. So it was actually part of that film that they haven't shown in here. It was just another video that was given through the Department of Corrections showing a lot of the work that I'm doing out in society and how I got out and qualified for Boston and ran the Boston Marathon. So yes, in that sense, that was a part of his backyard and his neighborhood where he lives at. So I go there and eat dinner, hang out with him and his family. In Seattle, when he showed the screening there, I met his kids and his grandkids. Yeah, so we're really close. And I think that what I'm trying to get for the guys inside now is something more than just, help with getting out, but maybe we can get some kind of thing going where they can have free tuition for school, a backpack with a phone and some gear, maybe some sponsorship to, if they can make it and qualify to Boston, get a free entry to Boston. A lot of the stuff that I was kind of given, that we can have for a lot of the guys that are a part of the club when they get out. So, stuff like that. So I'm working on that.
Yeah.
Have they tried to build a real track inside the prison?
Question is, have they tried to build a real track inside the prison?
Well, what they showed there is what the actual coach had done. That was the closest they was going to get for a real track because of prison, politics, and all that kind of stuff.
So they haven't made any progress in that.
Yes.
Well, you're an inspiration, Markelle. Thank you for doing this. A few little questions. How long was the actual track? They might have said it in film, but I didn't catch on.
It was I wanted to make sure I actually really ran a marathon because I've never done it in my life. I never even tried or attempted. That film was the second time. The first time I ran faster. That was my slowest time they show right there. The other 2 times after that, because I ran it 4 times. I qualified for Boston the last time I ran.
Excellent.
With a 3:10. But it's actually, if you stay within the cones and in the lines, as long as you don't cut it, you actually run on a quarter track all the way around. It's just not flat. It's like cross country.
And how did it feel the first time you could run in a real race where you didn't have to just go around and around and around and around the whole time? How did it feel? Like at Boston, how did it feel?
I was just so happy, and I couldn't believe I got out. I had life. I didn't think I would ever get out of prison.
Yeah.
So I was still like just enjoying freedom, and that was kind of like, it was mixed feelings, emotions, and it was overwhelming because I was like, oh, I'm in Boston a month and a half. I was just in prison on life sentence, so I was still just enjoying being free. So it's kind of, I felt better after, like maybe a year later, it really kicked in that I'm actually free. So it was hard to say.
Well, I'll get to you, but there's a question right there.
Do you ever imagine getting your buddies together from prison to all of you run Boston?
That would be big. That would be big. That would be nice to
Falmouth, for that matter.
do. Maybe we can get them back out here where we all can do. We can all at least do that. Maybe not Boston. Not everybody can go to Boston, and run that because you got to have a qualifying time unless they were able to run through a charity.
Right.
So.
Well, come back and run Falmouth. That would be great.
I mean, after this year, I'm gonna have to come back because I want to be able to break whatever I do to
You had a question.
Yeah. Were there any like small freedoms that surprised you and like how grateful or happy they made you feel when you're outside that were like unexpected things?
Were there any small freedoms?
Yeah.
Things when you got
Like-
out of prison that surprised you?
It's kind of like when you're like, this is a stupid comparison, but like,
Yeah, because I was able to see people and move around. The first year I got out, I was in a transitional housing that felt kind of like prison still, even though I was free, because I had a curfew. I had times I could only be out for 6 hours.
You were on parole.
Yeah, I was still on parole. The second time I ran Boston, which was last year, I had actually got off parole, and it felt a lot better. That's why I was able to break 3 hours and run 255 flat. I mean, 252 flat. So it was, the feeling was different with actually totally being free. So I don't know, I guess with being on parole was still a little bit like I had these restraints, but it was better than being in prison.
One more question, yeah.
How many runners are there, how many members are there now in the club in San Quentin? And I saw that it had expanded to another prison. Has it grown in addition to that?
going back in as a coach, there's a whole different group of people that joined. It seemed like, actually before I got out, there was people that were transferred from the other prisons. Like, oh, I know you, and I never even met this guy before, because San Quentin newspaper goes to other prisons, all 32 prisons, and it also goes to other countries and out into society. So people that was in prison and other prisons was transferred because they heard about San Quentin, the 1,000 Mile Club, and what it was doing for people and how it was them transforming their lives. And by the way, when I started to join that club, and once it all kicked in, the last 4 years, which is the 4 marathons I'm in prison, I was already free before even being released. That's how the running element added into the rest of my life, made me feel better, about my situation. And whether they let me out or not, I was already, like, my mindset was, there was nothing that could hold me back from there.
And how many members how many runners are there now?
It's probably like 75 now.
75.
But actively, consistently running, training, or at least racing, probably about 40 guys. That's why I was thinking about getting like some singlets and shorts, at least 50 as a start, and people who are going to actually run a race, they can have something to put on and feel good about, just like all the other clubs inside the prison.
So 2 things. One, Markelle has designed his own, is it on the back of that? Is it on the back of your?
Yeah.
Markelle the Gazelle.
Yeah, I got this right here.
Yeah.
And my new logo. But this is the old logo right here.
Yep.
With Running Free. So I started that in my sweatsuit, right? So I'm kind of like, I didn't put much into it at first, and I didn't have much support, so I kind of put it on the back burners and was just living regular life. But it all started from when, if you see in Boston, when I had that 1,000 Mile Club shirt with the razor wire, I created that, and I had them to make it for me, but that was supposed to be for them, but they didn't do it for me. They kind of put a stop to it and just gave it back to me, and some of me and some of the other coaches was wearing it, and I'm like, but this ain't really for me. So I ended up just taking it and transforming it into something out into society that I can share with the world, and that's where this came up, and now this is my new logo, MTG Markelle, and this is Gazelle. So that's my new thing, but it's actually started from me trying to have something creative for the guys inside.
So with this film, I know the filmmaker really hopes that it's going to screen for a week in Boston. It's going to be on, I think, Netflix or one of the streaming channels sometime in the fall, and we are showing it again as well in October at Katuitt Center for the Arts. But I know that Christine really intends to use this to transform as much as possible the way that people are considered for potential release, especially if they participate in something like this. So, and Markelle, he's really giving back every step of the way. So thank you so much.